Over the last year, I've spent 250 hours making the perfect ROM hack of Pokemon Crystal.
And I'm gonna beat his game with these hardcore Nuzlocke rules. If a Pokemon faints, they must be released. I can only catch the first Pokemon I encounter on each route. I can't use any items in battle. Every gym leader has a level cap that I can't go over. And I have to play on set mode. If you want to learn more about this game, check out SmithPlays Pokémon and his awesome series on the creation of this game. And if you'd like to play it yourself, check the description below and join the Discord. This game starts like any normal Crystal playthrough. You wake up and talk to your mom, and then get the crap kicked out of you by this ginger. After that, you get your first job at the ripe age of 11, and Professor Elm pays you with a Pokemon. I decided to pick the Fire Weasel Cyndaquil, and I named him Ace. After getting my starter, I run to Mr. Pokemon's house. That's right, you can run in this game. It's awesome. And after arriving, I'm greeted by Professor Oak. He gives us the Pokédex, and I also get the Strange Egg. On my way back to the lab, I encounter my bully, and I got revenge by beating him in a battle. After arriving at the lab, I immediately snitch and tell the police his name is Smith. Yeah, sorry man. I then get the egg to the professor, and now the Nuzlocke officially begins. On Route 29, I encounter a Sentret, but sadly it dodges on my ball, so I have to get more. So on Route 30, I get my first real encounter. Leo the Ladybug, who actually has some decent buffs in this game. On Route 46, I encounter Phanpy, and I name him Crocodile. After that, I continue on and battle the infamous youngster Joey. Did he just say doggone it? Okay. On Route 31, we grab Marco the Pidgey, and by now you might see we have a naming theme going on. Let me know who you think matches their name the best. Once I make it to Violet City, I grab more Pokeballs and then catch Jozu the Geodude and Chopper the Rattata. Now that we have a decent team, I decided to grind up the Falkner's level cap. I never realized how low level his Pokemon were, but hey, it's a Nuzlocke, so I even take the extra step of getting everyone super close to their next level up. And now it's time to take on our first gym. Okay, I messed up. I realized I only remember Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and in those games you can just skip right to Falkner. So now it's time for the mission. Operation Alphabet. The plan is simple. With a quick trip to the Ruins of Alph, we solve an ancient puzzle, unlock the secret area, and catch an unknown.
You son of a bitch! I'm in!
His codename is Poneglyph, then we level him up to precisely level 8, and from here it's like taking candy from a Togepi. Poneglyph takes the guards out with a few ancient powers, and now with the path clear, we can safely face Falkner, with our Pokemon still within the level cap. Mission accomplished. I decided to lead with Poneglyph, and it easily takes Falkner's Pidgey out with a few ancient powers. Falkner then sends out his Ace, which is now a Noctowl, which hits a crit, but in return, Poneglyph does massive damage with ancient power. I decided to risk it, and lucky for Poneglyph, he survives on 3 HP, and takes Noctowl down to red with another ancient power. I then decided to swap the Chopper and take Noctowl out with a quick attack, winning us our first badge. Now, you might have noticed, that wasn't really a hard fight. While this game does have an improved difficulty, it's not meant to be a challenge ROM hack, but more of a rewarding challenge that will ramp up as we play. After getting the gym badge, I make my way to Sprout Tower, where we encounter a guaranteed Ghastly and name him Soul King. Once we reach the top of the tower, we encounter our rival Smith, who just beat up this old man. Instead of helping him, I beat up the old guy too, and I steal HM Flash. After fleeing the crime scene, I catch a Wooper on Route 32 and name it Chew. You know, Chew, the zesty fisherman that Usopp beat up? Yeah, that guy. At the Poke Center before Union Cave, I talk to a fisherman and he gives us the old rod. So I backtrack and I catch Arlong the Magikarp, Hatchin the Tentacle, and Jack the Poliwag. With every available encounter caught, well, almost every encounter, I move on, and in Union Cave, I head down to the basement in hopes of getting an Onyx. But instead I get a Meryl. I named it Carrot and sent it to the box. After making it out of Union Cave, I catch a Machop on Route 33 and I name him Gort. I then go down a well and find an old man who broke his back. I tried robbing him, but he says some guys called Team Rocket already did. So I battle them and take all the money for myself. There's also this mysterious grunt who seems to actually have feelings, so I take his money too. After defeating Team Rocket, the old man comes over and thanks me for saving the Slowpoke. So I just go with it and he gives me a fastball. Before leaving, I caught Mihawk the Zubat, and then I went and spent all the money I stole on a piece of charcoal to raise Ace's fire type moves. And with all that out of the way, we can face the second gym leader, Bugsy. Bugsy leads with a Pineco, and I send out Ace, who blasts Pineco with an Ember, but it lives on 1 HP thanks to its sturdy ability. Wait, no, that was actually just a coincidence. This game doesn't have abilities. Ace finishes off the lucky bug with another Ember, and then Bugsy sends out Ledian, who actually tanks an Ember really well, but then does pathetic damage with Thunder Punch. Ace hits another Ember, bringing him down to red, and then Ledian confuses our starter. So I swap the Crocodile, who gets a free switch into Thunder Punch, and then I swap back to Ace, removing the confusion, until he hits a Psybeam and confuses Ace again. I decided to swap to Crocodile again, getting another free switch, and this time taking Ledian out with Tackle. Bugsy then sends out his Ace Scyther, so I swap to Marco, who eats up a Fury Cutter. Marco does good damage with Gust, and shrugs off another Fury Cutter. After hitting another Gust, Scyther goes down to red, but thanks to his Berry Juice, it can take one more Gust, and Fury Cutter now does serious damage, bringing Marco to 6 HP. But thankfully, Marco ends the battle with a quick attack, and we now have our second badge. After healing up, I try to leave, but this Smith guy just won't leave us alone. He asked me about Team Rocket, and then challenged me to another battle. This time, he leads with a Zubat, and I send out my newly evolved Marco. Marco takes his Zubat down to yellow, and then gets confused by Supersonic. After hitting himself, he snaps out on the next turn, and knocks the bat out. Smith's Larvitar comes out next, and no, I'm not super jealous or anything. I love my Geodude. Fearing a rock move, I swap to Hotshot and take out Smith Larvitar with 2 bubbles. And then he sends out his Croconaw. Am I the only one that got confused as a kid and thought Croconaw was coming out of an egg? Oh, it's just me? Okay, cool. Just checking. Hotshot confuses the hatchling with a supersonic, and then I swap the Mihawk for free because Crocodile hits himself in confusion. Crocodile hits himself one more time, and Mihawk does a sadly small amount of damage with leech life. Crocodile finally does some damage and hits 2 water guns while Mihawk chips him down to red. I decide to play extra safe, so I swap the Marco and take it out with a quick attack. With our rival defeated once again, we can move on to Ilex Forest, where I genuinely had to look up how to solve this children's puzzle. But in my defense, I realized I never actually beat Crystal before. Maybe I got stuck here as a kid. Who knows? Before leaving the forest, I teach Arlong Headbutt and catch Nami the Oddish. On Route 34, I encounter Drowsy and I name him Usopp. I mean, look at that schnoz. Also on Route 34, we go into the daycare where the owners give us an egg. So I drop everything I'm doing and I run around like a madman until I run right into this guy and speed up. And this battle is the worst. This guy's Azumarill starts using rollout and I'm too slow to react. I try to swap the Marco and lowers accuracy with sand attack, but it's too late and Marco falls, making this my first death of the run. I then swap the Hotran and use a supersonic, and I'm just praying this blue bunny won't ruin my run. But tragedy strikes again, and Hotran becomes the second death of this run. Lucky for me, I'm able to put it to sleep with Soul King and end the battle, but man was that close. So yeah, that sucked, but at least we get to hatch our egg, and it's a Smoochum who I named Big Mom. I was originally disappointed here, but later in this run, Big Mom shows me just how good Jinx really is. After making it to Goldenrod City, I bought some berries from the new berry quirk. Ah yes, I'll take 5 Pizen berries. I then head to Route 35 where I encounter a Yon Mega, and I immediately run away after it almost kills half my team. In the national park, I was really hoping for a Scyther, but I got the next best thing. The creators of this ROM buffed Ariados more than any other Pokemon, giving it a base speed of 80. It's not broken, but it's actually usable now. So with Nico Robin joining the team and Arlong evolved, I decided to take on the 3rd gym. And if any of you guys played this game as a kid, you would know that Whitney's a rock-throwing demon that can easily crush any unprepared trainers. But I'm an adult now who still plays Pokemon. Alright, let's do this. Whitney's first Pokemon is Clefairy, so I send out Ace and hit this weird Squishmallow, with return bringing it below half. But after that, it lowers my attack with Charm. Ace hits her with another return, but this time it barely does any damage, and Clefairy uses the scariest move in any Nuzlocke, Metronome. Lucky for me, it rolls Frustration, so we survive and take Clefairy out with another return. Whitney's next Pokemon is Teddiursa, and tell me this sprite isn't adorable. I mean, look at this little dude. Sadly, I still need to take him out, so I lower his accuracy with Smokescreen, and then he blasts me with a massive headbutt. Ace does heal up from his berry, but it's not enough, so I play it safe and swap the Soul King, getting a free switch into Headbutt. I try to put Teddiursa to sleep, but Hypnosis misses twice, and Soul King gets super low after taking 2 Metal Claws. Like a fool, I risk another hit, but lucky for me, this time it works, and the bear falls asleep. I then get a free switch into Garp, and he takes Teddiursa out with a single Karate Chop. And now he's at full HP to face Whitney's true threat. Now, Miltank could be pretty scary, and I really don't want a sequel to the rollout incident, but thanks to Garp's resistant to rock type moves, he easily takes this stupid cow out, winning us our 3rd badge. After beating Whitney, I grab the squirt bottle and use it on this strange tree, and it just jumps across these trees like Naruto. Seriously, these old animations are so funny. On Route 37, I catch Pell the Noctowl, and then we arrive in Ekritique City, where I find Bill. So I backtrack immediately and get Doflamingo the Eevee. Before we can face the 4th gym leader, we need to fight him in the 10 Tower. This is also where we meet Eugene, a guy who is way too obsessed with this water dog. Speaking of dogs, our encounter here is Houndour, an awesome fire pup. We just need to lower his HP, and there's no way a tackle could take him out. After a little grief counseling, we run into our rival Smith once again. After beating our rival, he pulls a Mr. Burns and drops us down a trap door. Joke's on him though, we find 3 legendary Pokemon, and one of them even makes eye contact with us. And after that, the weird guy digs a hole down to us, and then talks about how Suicune is fur bait. And now, with all those shenanigans out of the way, we can finally take on the 4th gym leader, Morty the Ghost Tamer. Morty has a simple gimmick, Hypnosis. And sadly, I didn't buy a single mint berry. God, I'm so glad they renamed these berries. I lead Mihawk and take Haunter down to red. But sadly for me, Haunter immediately puts him to sleep. After four freaking rounds of sleep, I push my luck a little too far, and Mihawk falls to 2 HP. So I swap the Pell, who finishes Haunter with a Side Beam. Man, having a normal type with a psychic move is so good for this gym. Morty sends out a Stantler, so I swap the Ace and take Stantler out with 2 Flame Wheels, thanks to a lucky burn. Morty's next Pokemon is the only other ghost type in this entire game, Misdrevious. I decide to keep Ace in and take it out with a few Flame Wheels, but not before Morty can use Perish Song. So when he sends out his Gengar, I get a safe switch to Pell and blast Gengar with a Side Beam. Gengar misses another Hypnosis, and Pell wins us the battle. And now with the first 4 badges acquired, we can use Surf outside of battle. Speaking of Surf, we grab the HM off this old guy after holding this place hostage. Easy pickings. At this point, we have 2 options. Go west and battle Chuck, or go east and battle Price. Normally for a hardcore Nuzlocke, we'd have to face the gyms in the original order to keep in line with the level caps. But this game did what Scarlet and Violet couldn't. It has dynamic level scaling, so that means we can face them in any order we want. So instead of being smart and battling Chuck, who we had the most type advantages for, I decided to battle them in reverse order, mostly because as a kid, I never fought Price first. Here's all the encounters I caught on my way to Mahogany Town, and after this point, I won't be going over every encounter. The main perk to fighting Price first is the early access to Lake Rage, so we can grab the infamous Red Gyarados, who I've been planning on replacing Arlong with thanks to the Shiny Claws. I even saved the name Jinbei for this moment. Oh, he's dead? Okay. me, I guess. After that complete disaster, I run into Lance and he asks for my help and says I have considerable skill. So I follow him, and this guy uses Hyper Beam on a human, so obviously they let us in. The stranger that showed us the way flees the scene, and then me and Lance go after Team Rocket. After battling a few rocket grunts, I make my way to turn off the statues with this convenient switch, and then head deeper in, where I meet up with Lance, and then the two of us split up again and find the passwords for the door. I actually run into Ito, who's the interesting rocket grunt from Slowpoke Well. After beating his interesting team, he actually gives us the first password. After that, we grab the second passcode off this rocket lady and head to the door upstairs where we run into our rival once again. I was super scared this was a battle because I didn't heal, but it turns out Smith was just a little overwhelmed and needs to vent a little. What a loser. After he leaves, we open the door and encounter Archer, who challenges us to a battle. Arlong hits his Weezing with the headbutt, and it does a surprisingly low amount of damage. So after Weezing uses Smokescreen, I swap the Chew. And let me tell you, this is so weird for me. You know, to use ground type moves on Pokemon like Weezing just doesn't make sense in my brain. So after Chew annihilates Weezing, Archer sends out Tauros, who's actually pretty scary in Generation 2. So I swap the Garp and hit the bull with the mean left hook. Now, Tauros does some crazy damage with Horn Attack, but lucky for me, we just outsped. So I finish him off with, turns out Quick Claw doesn't let you know when it triggers, so yeah, we just lost Garp. In the moment, I even thought it was weird that Machoke outsped, because I know how slow he is, but I didn't trust my gut, so rest in peace to the only good fighting type that we'll ever have in this run. I send in Arlong to avenge Garp, and then Archer sends in Slowbro, and man, this thing is tanky. But lucky for me, Arlong has Dragon Rage, so I just spam it until the Super Tank falls. Archer's last Pokemon is Houndoom, and it quickly falls to a few Surfs, waiting us to battle. After losing, Archer just face plants into a desk, and then runs away. And then we grab the password from this random Murkrow. I swear I remember this weird part where you needed to mimic the vocal range of Archer, but I guess that's just in the remakes. So with the final password found, we finally open the door. And then two more Rocket members show up trying to stop us. And for once, Lance actually helps us out and battles one of the grunts while we take on Ariana. She leads with an Arbok, but Arlong tears her Danger Noodle to shreds with a crit. Her next Pokemon is a Persian who does decent damage, but falls to two headbutts from Arlong. She then sends out a Murkrow, so I swap to a Nell and smash it with a Thunder Punch, taking it out with one hit. Her last Pokemon is a Vileplume. Oh dear God, what is that face? Out of fear, I swap the Ace and he gets blasted to yellow with a Sludge Bomb. So I swap again, this time to Dalton, and he gets hit pretty hard too, but he manages to get a flinch on the next turn. Sadly, two headbutts aren't enough, and our Rootin' Tootin' Cowboy falls to a Giga Drain. With Dalton dead and Ace and Arlong too low to swap to, our options here are pretty limited. Because I haven't found the rare candy code yet, Chew and Doflamingo are too low to send in, so that leaves us with one option. But unfortunately, I panic and I send in Ace, wasting my free switch. So I swap to a Nell into a Sludge Bomb, and he gets poisoned. At this moment, I really thought the run might end. So I went for a ballsy play, paralyzing the Vileplume, and fortunately, it wastes its turn on Sweet Scent. Unfortunately, it hits through paralysis and does massive damage with Giga Drain, healing up and taking a Nell to red. Things are looking really bad here. I go over my options, and I realize a Nell is far too important to risk. He's quite literally one of a kind. With the limited pool of Pokemon, nothing can fill his role as a bulky electric type. So I swap to Arlong and hope for the best. I click Thrash and leave my run in the hands of Arlong. And lucky for me, it pays off. The AI wastes another turn using Sweet Scent, and Arlong takes out this cruel plant demon. Oh, and with that, Team Rocket is defeated. For some reason, the champion just lets these criminals escape, and then we deal with the Electrode powering the signal. I was really scared of Explosion here, but I got super lucky and it never happened. And with that, Lance thanks us, and now we can take on the 5th gym leader, Price. Now, I'm gonna be real, I went into this battle pretty cocky. I mean, ice types are the worst in the game, and I've got Ace. And for his water types, I have a Nell. But still, I probably should have grinded more. I mean, Soul King is level 32, and Leo is freaking level 10. But in my defense, playing without rare candies is a nightmare, so here we are. Price starts with a Dugong. So I lead with a Nell, who hits a nasty Thunder Punch, leaving Dugong with a paralysis. Price makes a smart switch into Piloswine, forcing me to switch to Chew, who gets absolutely blasted with a critical Earthquake, leaving him with 27 HP. But lucky for me, Price's Dugong set up a Rain Dance on the first turn. So Chew takes Piloswine out with a single surf. After that, Price sends out his Dugong once again, so I swap back to it now and finish it off with another Thunder Punch. Price's next Pokemon is Sneasel, who's seen some decent buffs in this game. So I swap once again, this time sending in Ace, who actually takes a lot of damage for Feint Attack, and not wanting to risk my starter, I decided to sack Leo, getting me a free switch to Arlong. Because Sneasel has set up a Reflect, I opt to use Dragon Rage to slowly take it out in 3 turns. Unfortunately, this leaves Arlong on 30 HP, so I decided to sack yet again, this time feeding Chew to the Purple Face Jinx. This gets me a free switch to Soul King, who gets off a Confuse Ray, but sadly, I lose the Coin Flip, and Soul King falls to a Psychic. This is the first loss that really stings. Gengar is amazing, and quite literally, the only good ghost type in this entire game. Losing it here really sucked, but hey, that's a hardcore Nuzlocke for you. After being demoralized, and once again fearing a wipe, I send in my Ace and pray that he can take Jinx out with a single Flame Wheel. And oh my god, does he not disappoint. Ace hits a perfectly timed crit, and this is why I love Nuzlockes. The lows may be low, but the highs are higher. And with that, we just earned our 5th gym badge. And now it's time to say goodbye to a few friends. Or one friend. After beating Price, we make our way to Route 39, where I grab Frankie the Magneton. And after that, we arrive in Olivine City, grabbing the Good Rod. This gives us access to some really good encounters, and best of all is Staryu, who we named Kuzan. So after that, we battle our way to the top of the lighthouse, grabbing a few items on the way, and eventually we encounter Jasmine. She asks us to grab some medicine for her Ampharos, so we drop down these perfectly placed holes and make our way towards Cianwood City to the secret potion. We also catch a Krabby we never use, and then battle the weird Suicune fairy guy. I wish I could say I did this all in one trip, but for some reason I made about 3 different trips to Cianwood. But eventually I do make my way back to Jasmine and giving her the secret potion. And once she heals Ampharos, she welcomes us to challenge her. Jasmine leads with Skarmory, which would normally be extremely annoying to deal with because of its massive defense stat. But with Enel holding a magnet, Thunder Punch takes it out in a single turn. Jasmine decides to send in our ace early, so I quickly switch to Lasso. And to my surprise, he survives an Earthquake and takes Steelix out with a crit surf. I'm pretty sure the crit mattered here, and man was it well timed. Jasmine sends out Magneton, so I swap the Crocodile and get a free switch into Thunder. But before I can take it out, it sets up a Rain Dance. And then Crocodile takes it out with another crit. Our next Pokemon is Corsola, which is a fun addition to our team considering she used to be a rock type trainer. I immediately swapped Crocodile for Enel, but Corsola hits a crit on top of the Rain Boost, bringing my boy down to red. So I swap again, this time to Lasso, who survives a Surf and hits Corsola with a Side Beam. In hindsight, I don't know why I didn't click Surf here, and unfortunately my foe does use Surf, bringing Lasso down to 4 HP. I decide to risk it and click Surf, but I'm not punished, and Corsola falls, leaving Jasmine with one last Pokemon. She sends out her Scizor, so I decide to sack Lasso for a free switch into Ace, and he takes Scizor out with a 4 times effective Flame Wheel, winning us the Mineral Badge. After beating Jasmine, I make my way back to Cianwood and battle my way through the gym trainers. Oh, that's cool. I've never seen a gym where you need HMs to progress. Alright, let me just teach Arlong Strength. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Yep, that's right. I have to backtrack all the way to, well, actually, I didn't know where to go. So after watching a YouTube video, I found Strength in Olivine City and make my way back to Cianwood for the 6th damn time. Yeah, move your ass! And with that rock out of our way, we can finally take on Chuck, the fighting type master. Chuck sends out a Beyblade, so I lead with Mihawk and take Hitmontop out with Wing Attack. And since I gave Big Mom the XP share, she levels up and learns Psychic. Sudowoodo comes out next, so I swap the Kuzan and it tanks a Rock Slide. I then use Surf, bringing Sudowoodo to 1 HP, and it uses Feint Attack, bringing Kuzan to 1 HP as well. With one more Surf, we take care of that ugly tree, and Chuck's next Pokemon is Pinsir. And honestly, I have no idea why this isn't Heracross. Smith explains that he thinks it would be too strong at this point in the game, but I disagree. So after Pinsir comes out, I swap to Ace and take it out with a Flamethrower. Chuck's Primate comes out, and because it has Rock Slide, I decide to swap Ace out for Enel, who waits to hit like it's nothing, and then blast Primate with a Thunder Punch, leaving it paralysis. And now that we outspeed, Enel takes it out with another Thunder Punch. And then Poliwrath comes out, but Enel makes quick work of Chuck's Ace, winning us the battle with 2 more Thunder Punches. With Chuck defeated, we earn our 7th badge, and we can finally use Fly. Also, apparently Gyarados can learn Fly in this game, which is awesome. And right after we leave the gym, Professor Elm calls and tells us about Team Rocket's attack on the radio tower. So I immediately fly over to stop them. But before saving innocent people, I make one last pit stop at the ruins, where I spend way too much time on this damn children's puzzle. But after solving it, I'm given the old Amber, which was locked until the 7th gym. And in the building outside, I can restore the fossil into Zolo the Aerodactyl. After grabbing one of the strongest encounters in the entire game, I make my way to slaughter Team Rocket. I eventually make my way into the Super Center, where I find yet another puzzle designed for children. And again, I spent way too much time on this. I'm actually kind of glad they keep dumbing the games down. Eventually, I find the director, and he thanks me for saving him. He gives me the card key and asks me to help the others. With access to the rest of the radio tower, Zoro slices his way through the rest of the Rocket Grunts, and we find Archer. He leads with a Weezing, who gets blasted with an Earthquake from Crocodile, but it doesn't kill, so in the next turn, he gets a safe switch into Gyarados. So I swap the Enel and take 2 hits before knocking the Sea Snake out with a 4 times effective Thunder Punch. Archer sends out Weezing once again, so I swap back to Crocodile, but I get totally predicted. And he swaps again, this time to Slowbro. I obviously can't leave Crocodile in, so I swap again, this time to Arlong. I decide to use Fly, but I'm outplayed once again, and Slowbro uses Curse, raising his attack and defense. And then he uses Amnesia, raising his special defense. And sadly for me, Arlong no longer knows Dragon Rage. So we have to take this thing out the old-fashioned way. I just spam Strength for like 4 turns, like a mindless ape, but it somehow works, and we take the Super Tank out. Weezing comes, and I panic swap the Crocodile, even though Arlong would have outsped here. So Crocodile takes a Sludge Bomb and finishes the ball sack off. Archer's Tauros comes out, but Crocodile is hungry, and he takes the Venison out with 2 Earthquakes. Archer's final Pokemon is a Houndoom, and we win the battle with 1 last Earthquake. After being defeated, Archer whines about the glory days of Team Rocket, and then the mysterious man from before shows up again. And it's Giovanni. What the twist? Giovanni gives Archer a long speech and tries to help him change, but it seems that he's still conflicted, and Archer and all of the Rocket Grunts leave, hopefully for good. With Team Rocket defeated and peace restored, we can finally get back to earning some gym badges, baby! To get the Claire, we have to go through the ice path, where we find HM Waterfall. And like, man, how many of you missed this as a kid? I know I did. After grabbing a useless ice type, we arrive in Blackthorn Cave and prep our team to face Claire. After once again barely surviving my poor XP management, we make our way to face Claire, the Dragon type master. Claire leads with her first Dragonair, so I send out Big Mom, and she knocks us Danger Noodle into outer space. Claire's next Pokemon is a Gyarados, who's definitely scarier. So I swap to Enel and take a bite. And then Gyarados joins Dragonair after getting smashed with a Thunder Punch. Claire's other Dragonair comes out, so I swap back to Big Mom and she gets paralyzed. Man, the new games have me spoiled. In this moment, I just couldn't believe that she would use Thunder Wave on an electric type. But lucky for me, it doesn't even matter because Big Mom hits through Para and sends another victim to the vacuum of space. Claire's next Pokemon is Lapras, so I swap to Frankie the Magneton, getting basically a free switch into Body Slam. And Frankie then brings Lapras down to 1 HP with Thunderbolt, and then gets killed by a critical hit Surf. I'm still surprised this killed, but hey, it happens. I decided to send in Arlong to finish off the murderer with Strength, and now it's time to face Claire's final Pokemon, her ace, Kingdra. And it's not that big of a deal. Arlong is able to take it out with 2 strengths, winning us our final Johto badge. Or I would've, but this chick straight up refused to give me her badge, and then she forces me to pass some stupid dragon trial that she hasn't even passed herself. What kind of bullshit is that? On the bright side, we pick up Kaido the Dratini and put him in the box for later. And now with all the badges acquired, we can tidy things up in Johto and then make our way to face the Elite Four. First up, we stop by to see Professor Elm for the Master Ball. Oh, that's my egg now, bitch! After getting the Master Ball, I make my way to the Tin Tower and show these old monks the Clear Bell. They say they need to test my will to make sure I'm worthy of Suicune or some bullshit. So I kick their asses and they let me pass. You know, literally anyone stronger than these old dudes could just come in here and catch the water dog. Speaking of the water dog, I'm so glad I didn't have to go through any puzzles. He just shows up. Alrighty, let's catch this thing. Oh, damn it, Enel. No, but seriously, I won't be using any legendaries in this run. I mean, it's not like the trainers use legendaries. So after killing the divine Pokemon, I move on to face the Elite Four. I'm gonna skip most of the traveling, but here's all the encounters I got on the way. After making my way through a surprisingly empty Victory Road, I encounter my rival Smith. He gives me a big speech about how he's gonna learn to love his Pokemon and treat them right. And like all iPad babies, he gets some instant gratitude, and his Tyranitar evolves early. All jokes aside, this was actually a really cool moment, and I love what they did with the rival. Smith leads with Ursaring, and I send out Arlong. Arlong smashes his teddy bear with a strength, but it actually didn't do as much as I expected. But neither does a Slash. So on the next turn, I use Fly and take Smith's Ursaring out. Smith actually sends his ace out early, but Arlong is still healthy, so I just hit Fly again. It surprisingly does less than half, and then Feraligatr hits a critical slash on Arlong. But my Gold Berry heals Arlong up, and I use Fly again, bringing Feraligatr down to 1 HP. After taking another slash, Arlong finishes Feraligatr off with a strength, and now it's time to face the real monster. Smith's Tyranitar comes out. So I get Arlong the hell out of there and send out Mononosuke. A Rock Slide brings him down to half, and on the next turn I use Surf, taking T-Tar down to yellow. Thank God this didn't crit, or Mononosuke would have died in his debut battle. One more Surf takes Godzilla out, and Smith sends out his Victory Bell. So I swap the Ace, live a Sludge Bomb, and take your mom out with a Flamethrower. Smith sends out his last Pokemon, so I swap the Zoro. And the poor pup's no match for his 3-sword style. So we win the battle. Smith goes through some actual character growth and decides he won't give up on his goal. So I'm sure we'll see him again. Spoiler alert, we don't. After a long journey, we finally arrived at the end. Well, not the end. I guess the halfway mark? Yeah, let's go with that. After a long journey, we finally arrived at the halfway mark. And now it's time to assemble our team for the Elite Four. First up is our starter Ace. And of course, we're also bringing Arlong. Next up is Zoro the Aerodactyl, one of the best new members to join our team. Fourth is Enel, who's been a staple since Price. We also brought Kondro the Slowbro, who we encountered at Tojo Falls. Our last member is the man, the myth, the legend, Whitebeard the Rhydon, who we caught in Victory Road. I really wanted to bring Kaido along, but with how the level caps are, he wouldn't have evolved until Karen. Now with our team assembled, we can take the plunge. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty nervous. The Elite Four is pretty tough in this game, and it's seen a lot of changes. First up is Will and his psychic types. Will leads with a Girafarig, so I send out Zoro. Zoro hits a nasty bite, bringing the long neck to yellow. Now in this moment, I'm really scared of it using Baton Pass, and unfortunately, my fears come true. Will swaps a Slow King, giving it the speed boost. I guess we should call this guy Fast King. Am I right, guys? Okay, back to the battle. Fearing a Surf, I swapped to Arlong to tank it. I then used Fly, bringing Slow King to 1 HP. Also, I know I shouldn't be too surprised because it's in his name, but Slow King with doubled speed is still slower than Arlong. I take another hit and then finish Slow King off with Strength. Will sends out his Girafarig once again, but Arlong outspeeds, taking it out as well. Next up is Espeon, who would have been scary, but Arlong blasts her with a critical hit Strength. Slowbro comes out next, so to avoid his massive defense stat, I swap to Enel and hit it with the Thunderbolt. And surprisingly with the Magnet, it falls to a single hit. Will's last Pokemon is Xatu, and it tries to confuse Enel, but he hits through, winning us the battle. Next up is Koga, and I specifically brought Whitebeard to deal with this guy's annoying Pokemon. First up is his Ariados, who they actually buffed mostly for this fight. And damn does it show. It outspeeds and kills Whitebeard with a 4 times effective Giga Drain in his first ever battle. Technically accurate to the show. So with my plan shattered, I'm in panic mode. I decide to send out Ace, assuming I can still outspeed, and I do, and it falls to a single Flamethrower. Koga's next Pokemon is Quillfish, which I believe was also buffed mostly for this battle. So I swap the Conjuro, and he slurps up a Surf from Quillfish. Unfortunately, I get kinda outplayed here, and Quillfish uses Toxic, but Conjuro brings it the red with Psychic. Quillfish takes my Slowbro down to yellow with a Sludge Bomb, but then falls to another Psychic. Koga sends out his Venomoth, so I swap the Ace, but then he gets hit hard with a crit Sludge Bomb. I also realized I forgot to level up to the new level cap, so that really sucks. Now, for some reason, I was super scared of Venomoth, outspeeding Ace. So I swapped to Zoro, but in hindsight, this was kind of a bad play. Thankfully, it doesn't do much damage, and Zoro outspeeds, taking Venomoth out with a wing attack. Koga's Muck comes out next, and Zoro hits it with a Rock Slide, and then Muck uses Minimize, and heals up with Leftovers. I told you this fight was annoying, but I get crazy lucky. Zoro not only hits Muck, but also hits a crit, taking the Sludge out. Koga's last Pokemon is Crobat, so I decided to stay in and hit it with a Rock Slide. I still can't believe this thing didn't die here, but it did live and used Double Team. But before I can get too annoyed, Zoro hits again, winning us the battle. Next up is Bruno, but we're gonna have to move on because we don't talk about Bruno. Okay, now with the bad joke out of the way, it's time to battle Bruno, and this time, I actually leveled my Pokemon up. Bruno leads with Hitmonchan, but Zoro absolutely bodies this man, taking it out with a single fly. Bruno's Steelix comes out next, so I swap the Conjuro, and he even dodges an Iron Tail, and then takes Steelix out with a Surf. It always surprises me how low Steelix's special defense really is. Bruno's next Pokemon is Heracross, so I swap back to Zoro, and he gets hit hard with a critical hit Mega Horn, but then he takes Heracross out with a 4 times effective Fly. Bruno's Ace Machamp comes out, so I swap Zoro for Conjuro, and he brushes off a Cross Chop. But then Machamp comes back strong with a crit, bringing Slowbro down to 44 HP. But Conjuro hits harder with Psychic, taking Machamp down to yellow. Knowing Slowbro can outspeed, I swap the Arlong to take a Cross Chop, and then finish Machamp off with Fly. Bruno's down to his last Pokemon, and it falls to a single Fly from Arlong, winning us the battle. Yeah, Bruno's still a bit of a pushover. With the Roid Boy out of the way, it's time to face the final Elite Four member. Karen leads with Umbreon, and man, is this thing a pain in the ass if you let it be. Its plan is simple: boost evasion, heal up, and baton pass when it wants to. And I really want to stop that. So I lead with Arlong and use Hyper Beam. And sadly, it doesn't kill, so I just put myself in a really bad situation, allowing it to boost its evasion and heal for free. Arlong chips Umbreon with Strength, and then I decide to go for another Hail Mary and blast Umbreon with Hyper Beam once again. And it not only hits, but it also takes the annoying cat out. Karen swaps in her Gengar and hits Arlong with a Shadow Ball while he recharges. I decide to swap to Zoro, but unfortunately Gengar hits a Hypnosis, putting him to sleep. The worst part is I have like 30 Miracle Berries at this point, which if you didn't know is the equivalent of a Lumberry. So Zoro fails to wake up, and I decide to swap to Ace. He brushes off a Shadow Ball and then turns Gengar to Embers with Fire Blast. Karen's Murkrow comes out next, and this is another Pokemon they buffed for the Elite Four, but it doesn't even matter. Ace smacks it with a Thunder Punch, ending its life. Her Houndoom comes out next, so I keep Ace out and hit it with another Thunder Punch. But Crunch does a little too much damage, so I swap to Enel. He eats up both a Crunch and a Flamethrower, and then Enel puts this guy into an early retirement with a Thunderbolt. And Karen's last Pokemon is the demon herself, Vileplume. But this time, I'm prepared, and Enel smacks it with 2 Fire Punches, ending the battle. And as easy as that, we just beat the Elite Four. And now it's time to take on Lance, the Jodo Champion. Oh, my Repel ran out? Thanks for letting me know. So, after popping another Repel to keep the pest away, I meet Lance once again, and it's time to battle. Lance leads with his Gyarados, so I lead with Enel. Also, I totally forgot to wake up Zoro, so I came into this battle with a huge disadvantage. But that's not gonna stop me. Gyarados gets a Rain Dance off, but Enel cooks this oversized fish with a 4 times effective Thunderbolt. After that, Lance sends out his first Dragonite. I decided to keep Enel in, and boy does it pay off. My luck here is insane. Dragonite misses a Blizzard, allowing me to get a Thunder Wave off. He then misses a second Blizzard, letting me get a Light Screen off for free. But the luck doesn't end there. Lance's Dragonite gets a full para, and then Enel blasts it with a freaking crit, bringing the dragon to red. It recovers with its berry, but then I shit you not, it gets full parried again, and we take it out with another Thunderbolt. Honestly, with Zoro being asleep and Whitebeard dead, I really believe we would have lost this battle if it wasn't for this insane luck. Lance's next Pokemon is the legendary bird Pokemon, Zapdos. And thank God the rain runs out the same turn. Feeling confident in Enel, I decide to stay in and try to paralyze the bird with Thunder Wave. And damn, my luck just keeps going. Zapdos misses Sky Attack, so we get Thunder Wave off for free. And then on the next turn, Enel takes it down to yellow with Thunderbolt. And then the Lightning Bird gets a full paralysis. I've gotten so lucky that our light screen wore off, and I haven't taken a single hit of damage. Now I know my luck can't last, so I set up another light screen, and Lance lands his first attack, paralyzing Enel. And now the pendulum swings. Zapdos hits a Sky Attack, and Enel is fully paralyzed. But hey, I'm not complaining. Because the damage Zapdos is doing is so low, I stay in and take the legendary out with the final Thunderbolt. Lance's Aerodactyl comes out, and this is where things get serious. Fearing an Earthquake, I know I need to switch, so I swap the Conjuro, who tanks the Earthquake, and then hit the Dino with a powerful Surf, taking it out in a single hit. So far, we're rolling through this fight. Lance sends out his Ace, and unfortunately, our light screen fades. I foolishly keep Conjuro in, and try to hit the dragon with a 4 times effective Ice Punch, and tragedy strikes in the form of Thunder, taking our sweet Slowbro out. This loss really stings. This entire Elite Four run showed me just how powerful Gen 2 Slowbro is, and it's a shame to lose it so carelessly. I decide my best play is to send Enel out once again, and lucky for me, Dragonite uses Safeguard, so we get a Thunderbolt off without taking any damage. Dragonite then uses Hyper Beam, and to my surprise, Enel eats the massive attack, but sadly gets fully paralyzed. Instead of getting a free switch, I opt for the risky play, and it backfires. Enel is paralyzed once again, and now our advantage is gone. I know I need to swap here because I can't lose Enel, so I send in Zoro, and he tanks a Hyper Beam like it's nothing, giving us a free turn to try and wake up. Sadly, he stays asleep 2 turns in a row, and then my heart stops when Lance hits another Thunder. But somehow, Zoro clutches to life with 7 HP, and we have one more shot at winning this. And it happens. It actually happened. He woke up on the last possible turn and hits a Rock Slide, taking Lance's ace out. And now he's down to his final Pokemon, Charizard. But Zoro clutches up once again and hits a Rock Slide, ending the battle and earning us the title of Jodo Champion. Lance congratulates us, and we register our Pokemon in the Hall of Fame. And like that, the game's over. Psych! We still got 8 badges and one final battle between the greatest trainer in the world. With the title of champion achieved, we're given a ticket to Kanto. Now, with this being the post game, I won't be going into as much detail as I did with the Johto side of things. We arrive in Vermilion City, where we can immediately challenge our first Kanto gym. But before that, we can finally evolve Kaido into the mighty Dragonite. Surge's team is pretty tough, but we have plenty of ground types in the back to deal with him. He leads with an Electrode, and instead of trying to outspeed this thing, I just let it set up Rain Dance, and then take it out with an Earthquake from Crocodile. His Magneton comes out next, but Crocodile outspeeds, and without Levitate, this thing crumbles at the mere mention of a ground type move. Surge's third Pokemon is a Lantern, and now it's time to swap out. So I swap to a Nell, and a rain boosted Surf brings him down to yellow. I kind of panic here, and then use Light Screen, hoping I'll live another hit. And thank Arceus, and Nell lives, and then uses Thunder Wave on Lantern. So I send out Nami, and she tanks a Surf, and sucks Lantern dry with a Gigadrin. Oh god, who wrote this script? Oh yeah, I did. Lantern uses Ice Beam, and freezes Nami, but luckily I came prepared, and she thaws out with a Miracle Berry, and then finishes the job with one last suck. Surge sends out his Electabuzz next, and my Light Screen fades, so I swap to Ace. He tanks an Ice Punch, and on the next turn hits a nasty Flamethrower. But Electabuzz doesn't fall, and it uses Thunderbolt, but it doesn't do a whole lot. So Ace is able to finish it with another Flamethrower. Surge is down to his last Pokemon, and it's his own ace, Raichu. So I decide to swap to Kaido and use Thunder Wave. But Thunder does a whole lot more damage than I expected, so on the next turn, I swap him for Nami. She then absorbs the Thunder like it's nothing, and then takes Raichu out with her Expert Sucking, healing up in the process. And like that, we just earned our first Kanto badge. Before making my way to Erica, I made a stop at the Kanto Casino, and then I spent an absurd amount of money buying coins. But we get Shanks the Larvitar. I quickly evolve it in a Tyranitar and put it in the box for now. And now we can face Erica. But first, I get my Perv on.
I mean, you gotta get your perv on.
Now, Erica is usually a pushover because grass types aren't typically strong. And with Ace, we tear through her Jumpluff with a single Flamethrower. Her next Pokemon is a Sudowoodo, so I figured a swap to Dragonite would be pretty safe. And boy, was I wrong. It blows my mind that a critical hit Rock Slide from this wannabe tree killed one of the fucking Yonkos. And the fact that I only get to use him for 2 boss fights really pisses me off. But that's the fun of Nuzlocke, I guess. After losing Kaido, I realized my choices for this Rock type are pretty limited. So I decided to send in Arlong and hope for the best. It hits a Surf, and then a Rock Slide brings Arlong down to half. I would have cried at this crit again, but it didn't. So Arlong takes the Twig out with another Surf, and Erica sends out her next Pokemon, Exeggutor. Okay, what even is this thing? Like, are those still eggs, or are they coconuts, or what? Anyways, Arlong uses Fly and smashes the weird coconut egg down to red, and then finishes it off on the next turn with Strength. Erica's Ace comes out next, and Arlong slices the plant with a single Fly. After that, she sends out her Venusaur, which is normally scary, but Arlong shreds it to pieces with a critical hit Fly, and Erica's forced to send out her last Pokemon, Blossom. And surprisingly, it lives a Fly, but unsurprisingly, it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, and Arlong ends the fight on the next turn. After decimating Erica's team and getting our second Kanto badge, we make our way to Cerulean City to battle Misty. Misty leads the battle with Golduck, and I lead with Volty. You know, good old Volty from Olivine City. So I have Volty set up a light screen. On the next turn, Misty swaps Golduck for Quagsire, getting a free switch in. So I swap Volty for Arlong, and then Misty switches again, this time bringing out her Starmie. And I'm not gonna lie, I almost shit myself here. This is the only time I noticed the documentation being wrong, and I'm just grateful the light screen saved Arlong. He's able to bring Starmie down to yellow with Strength. I then swap the Big Mom and use Sweet Kiss to confuse it. On the next turn, Big Mom hits a Psychic, and Starmie knocks itself out in confusion. Misty's next Pokemon is her Vaporeon, so I swap back to Volty and take a Surf. Volty almost kills the mini Suicune with Thunder, and then tanks another Surf. I go for another Thunder, but it misses again, and Volty dies to Surf. I send a Nell out next, and he finishes Vaporeon off with a Thunderbolt. After that, Quagsire comes out once again, so I swap to Nami, and she takes the derpy guy out with 2 Giga Drains. Misty's Kingdra comes out next, and it freezes Nami with an Ice Beam. So I swap once again, this time bringing out a Nell, and he blasts Kingdra with a Thunderbolt, getting a Paralysis as well. And thanks to the Paralysis, a Nell now outspeeds and finishes it off. Misty's last Pokemon is Lapras, so I decide to go for a goofy play here. I decide to sack Big Mom to get Perish Song off. So after that, I just stalled a few rounds and we win the battle. I'm not gonna lie, we kind of rolled Janine, so this should be quick. I let Doflamingo and take out our Weezing with Psychic, and then she sends out Tentacruel. And after getting confused, Doflamingo takes it out with 2 Psychics. Her Crobat does get a Sludge Bomb off, but it also falls to a Psychic. Her Muck tries to spam Minimize, but Doflamingo don't play that shit, and he takes it out with Psychic. I kind of expected her Venomoth to put up a bit of a fight, but it also falls to a single Psychic. And her last Pokemon is Nidoqueen. Instead of letting Doflamingo to Ace. I swap the Rayleigh and I hit it with an Earthquake, taking it down to red. After that, I swap again, this time to Zoro, and he wins us the fight with another Earthquake. Yeah, that was pretty easy. Immediately after beating Janine, I make my way to face Sabrina. Sabrina has a similar story. Because we can finally make use of Shanks, he tears through this poor Mr. Mime with a crunch. Her next Pokemon is Jinx, so I swap the Doflamingo and take it out with 2 Shadow Balls. She then sends out Wobbuffet. First off, I'm terrified of this thing's moveset. And second, I'm not gonna lie, I really thought Wobbuffet was a Gen 3 Pokemon, but I came prepared. I send out Alvida the Blissey, who is such a broken Pokemon for Nuzlocke, by the way. Do not sleep on Chansey or Blissey. I use Toxic and then spam Minimize. Wobbuffet does outplay me and use Destiny Bond, so on the last turn of Poison, I take a huge risk and swap the Ace. But thank God we didn't lose our starter and Wobbuffet falls. Sabrina then sends out Slowbro, so I swap the Enel, and with the magnet it's holding, Slowbro falls to a single Thunderbolt. Her Hypno comes out next, so I set up a light screen with Enel and then dodge a Hypnosis. After that, Enel takes it out with a few Thunderbolts, and now Sabrina's down to her last Pokemon. I decide to swap to Rayleigh to take a Psychic, and then our light screen fades. Crunch was less than I expected, so I swap to Shanks, and he wins the battle taking Alakazam out with a Crunch. With those two defeated, we only have 3 more badges to earn. So I'm not gonna lie, I went in this battle pretty confident. I lead with Kuzan and take Brock's Golem out with a 4 times effective Surf. Brock's second Pokemon is Kabutops, and it does no Cut, which is now a bug type move in this game, but I'm fairly confident even if it crits, it won't kill. So I use Surf, bringing the Fossil down to yellow. Welp. I was wrong, and I see that now. Losing Kuzan really sucks. Nothing we have can fill the void of such a quick water type, but I'm not gonna let that stop me. I swap to Monomosuke, and he finishes Kabutops off. Brock then sends out a second fossil Pokemon, the Lord himself. And of course he hits another crit, but thankfully this one doesn't kill. So we take Ward Helix out with 2 Surfs, and now one of Brock's scariest Pokemon comes out, Aerodactyl. I decide to swap to my superior Zoro, and he dodges a Sky Attack, and then smashes his counterpart with a critical hit Rock Slide. Brock then sends out Tyranitar, and boy is this guy's team stacked. I don't want to risk Zoro, so I swap the Nami, and before she can heal up with Giga Drain, Brock hits another crit, taking out our best and only grass type. I then send in Rayleigh and use Earthquake, but Tyranitar starts spamming Curse, and I get pretty scared. But thank Arceus above that the luck turns back to our side, and we hit a crit taking Godzilla out. Brock seems to have finally evolved his Onix, so we have yet another mirror match. He spams Curse once again, and I spam Earthquake, and before seeing how much damage he can do to us, we hit another lucky crit, winning us the battle. After beating Brock, I decide to head south, and then make my way to Cinnabar Island. And I kind of forgot, the city's not here anymore. But we do find Blue, and he tells us to come challenge him at Viridian City. Blaine tells us about the power of nature and how he survived it thanks to a flaming bird. He then tells us about a certain trainer that entrusted him with that same legendary bird. So, not only do we have to take on Blaine, the second strongest gym leader in Kanto, but he also has the legendary firebird Moltres on his side. This battle's gonna be tough. Oh, Zoro, what did you do? So, I guess we're gonna make our way back to Viridian City to face the final Kanto gym leader and former champion, Blue. Wait, are those Legos? Is this guy's gym made out of Legos? It seems Blue really hasn't changed too much. He mocks the Jodo gyms for being weak, and even mocks us for being a Jodo Champion. So it's time to put this guy in his place. Blue leads with the final and arguably coolest legendary bird. And like Moltres, Zoro crushes him with a 4 times effective Rock Slide. Blue's next Pokemon is Alakazam, so I send in Shanks. But Blue pulls off the craziest prediction ever, sending out his Machamp. So I swap again, this time to Arlong. After tanking a Cross Chop, he takes Machamp out with Fly. Blue's Alakazam comes out once again, so I swap back to Shanks and he brushes off 2 Thunder Punches, and then destroys Alakazam with Crunch. Blue's Executor comes out next, so I swap the Ace and take it out with a single Flamethrower. Next is his Gyarados, so I swap again, this time to Enel, and I take it out with a 4 times effective Thunderbolt. His last Pokemon is Arcanine, so I decide to send in Kingdra and take a 4 times resist Flamethrower. And Mononosuke wins us the battle with a final Surf. With Blue defeated and Kanto conquered, there's only one thing left to do. We go and talk to Oak, and before letting us into Mount Silver, we have to prove ourselves worthy and earn the title of Kanto Champion. Not much changed with the Elite Four, and my team made it out completely unscathed, but Lance is a slightly different story. He congratulates me on all I accomplished, and then the battle begins. He leads with Gyarados, so I send out Enel, and before I can cook his sea monster, he swaps the Dragonite. I assume he did this because the Dragonite knows Earthquake, and luckily I'm right, getting a free swap to Arlong. I do take a risk here and assume it doesn't have an electric move, but it pays off and Arlong takes it down with 2 strengths. Lance then decides to send out his second Dragonite, so I swap the Shanks and take it out with a Rock Slide. He then sends his Gyarados back in, so I swap back to Enel. And after it sets up Rain, I take it out with Thunderbolt. Lance then sends out his third pseudo-legendary, Tyranitar, so I swap the Rayleigh. And he hits a crazy crit, taking it out in a single Earthquake. Lance then sends out his Charmander, so I swap Rayleigh for Shanks. And boy did I mess up here. Instead of using a fire move like I expected, Charizard used Belly Drum, maxing out its attack, and I foolishly let Shanks die to a +6 Earthquake. Losing Shanks right before red is a nightmare, but the show goes on. I swap to Arlong, and thankfully he outspeeds, taking the Yonko Slayer out with Surf. Lance sends out his Aerodactyl, and without Shanks, this thing is a problem for the majority of my team. So I take a gamble and use Surf with Arlong. And like that, we just lost one of the pillars of our team. This one hits harder than any other so far. I panic as my options dwindle, and then I make another error. I switch to Enel, hoping to end this battle, battle like he has so many before. But my luck runs out and it now falls to a crit Earthquake. And like that, my team was shattered in my final fight before red. Fearing a wipe, I swapped a Doflamingo, and to my surprise, he outspeeds and takes Aerodactyl out with Psychic. With half of our team lost to Lance, and the hardest battle just before us, I take a moment to say goodbye and to fill their spots. But before I do that, I make a few detours, grabbing vitamins to force feed to my Pokemon, and battling a certain trainer who created this entire game. Wait. If you're the real Smith, who the hell was that other guy? So with everything out of the way, it's time to head to Mount Silver and face the greatest trainer alive. Red leads with a level 93 Pikachu. And on top of the massive level advantage, it's also holding a light ball. I decided Zoro was my best bet. Yes, good job, Zoro. After losing his ace, Red sends out his Blastoise. And with the Nell and Nami dead, this thing is an issue. I swap the Luffy and take a Hydro Pump. And after swallowing another Hydro Pump on the next turn, Luffy paralyzes Blastoise with Body Slam. After that, I just spam Body Slam until his Blastoise falls. Blue then sends out Mewtwo. Yes, that Mewtwo. This explains why he dumped the legendary birds on other trainers. He's had his hands full. Mewtwo uses Barrier, and Luffy does chip damage with Body Slam. Red's Mewtwo does a lot of damage with Submission, and Luffy retaliates with Shadow Ball. With this being our final battle, I decide to sack Luffy for a free switch into Rayleigh, who tanks his Psychic and finishes the legendary off with Crunch. Red's next Pokemon is a Snorlax of his own, and it starts spamming Curse. But we've done this before. So I spam Earthquake and hope for the best. The exchange ends with Snorlax at red health and Rayleigh dead. But this gets us a free switch to Zoro, who takes Snorlax out. Red's next Pokemon is Charizard, and Zoro crushes it with the 4 times effective Rock Slide. Red then sends out his Venusaur, so I decide to swap to my starter. And Ace is able to take the beast out with a Fire Blast. And poetically, we end this game the same way we started it, with our starter Ace. Oh, it seems Red's trying to entrust us with Mewtwo. Don't worry, buddy. God damn it. If you guys enjoyed this hardcore Nuzlocke of Crystal Legacy, subscribe for more Pokemon content. Thank you so much to SmithPlays and his team for making this incredible game.